Hey everyone, how are you? It is Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Gosh, I don't ever say that when I come on, but this is happening on a Friday, and I want to make sure that everybody is having a good Friday. And I know a lot of us are doing a lot of shopping and things like that. So I think this is actually going to be good with us with our special guest. And what I didn't tell y'all, and what I didn't tell my special guest is that my middle name is spelled the exact same way as your first name. And then my last name is Anderson. So I thought that was such a coincidence. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell her this. I totally forgot. But, anyways, y'all, welcome to Hey Girl, Hey with Brandi. Y'all, this is the last show. I am so glad that you are here, that you're watching the replay, however you're consuming this information. I am so glad that you are here. Hey Girl, Hey is about beauty transformation from the inside out. Through my story, I share with many women and males the experience that I had in 2010 and taking you through this journey of bringing professionals in to help you understand what does that look like as you're going through recovery and helping you through overcoming and starting the healing process. We have to do that. But I also want to put out there, Hey Girl, Hey is a platform for me to bring in mental health professions to come in, give you their tips, their thoughts, generalizing a lot of the information that they're going over with you. What I want you to know that this is not in lieu of you getting professional help. And at any point where you start to recognize some of the things or some of the things start to resonate with you, we ask that you go get the professional help that you need. This is a platform just to share general information. So, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for spending your Friday with us. Anyways, let me go ahead and kick this off. I am going to introduce my special guest that we have here because I want to make sure that we get all the time that is needed. And she has a special demo for us later on throughout this segment. So make sure you stay here, especially if you're really trying to figure out and get this peace and calm in your day. So my special guest here is Danielle Anderson. She is a speaker, yoga, and fitness instructor and doula. And I actually had to look up what a doula was. I just had to because I'd never heard that word. I've never heard that. And then also Danielle gave me more information about that. She is passionate about helping others pursue whole health, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. I mean, they all body and sound. Her heart is to share practical wellness encouraging that her audience may experience from freedom and become agents of healing in their circles of influence. She and her husband, Tedashii, and hopefully did I say that right?
Tedashii.
Tedashii, have been married 15 years and live in Atlanta, Georgia, with their three energetic sons. Danielle, did I go over everything correctly? Is there anything that I missed?
You did. That is me. I'm a native Texan. I want to throw that in there for those of you in Texas. I'm a native Texan currently residing in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes, 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 yes. Just as an FYI, her sister is my speaking coach. She has walked this journey with me and everything that I've aspired to do. So, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with me. So, a lot of you who are on or watching the replay, you can't hear it enough of what I went through in my journey in 2010 on how I was attacked in my home by somebody that I knew, that was close enough to know about where I stay, what was my address, all the things. And so through that, I bring in mental health professions to help us through how do we start the recovery process and how do we start to overcome and what does that look like and recognizing when you've gone through trauma. Because here's the thing, my trauma doesn't look like yours. We may experience similar emotions, but it may look different. So, Danielle, I want you to, because you have a story as well. And I just want to give you the space to be able to tell us about what you consider the trauma that you have gone through. Share a little bit of that with us and take us through this journey as you become the yoga, fitness, holistic woman that you are today.
Mhm. Thank you. And Brandi, I so appreciate that even in your introduction, as you're talking about trauma, that you use the word experience, because like that in and of itself is so powerful. Because I think oftentimes people want to define trauma as a certain event,
Mhm.
but oftentimes it's all about how we experience that event. And
Yes.
so different people can experience the same event differently, where
Yes.
one might experience it as a trauma and someone else might experience it as not. And one of the examples in a book I recently read, the Oprah book, the What Happened to You,
Yeah.
she wrote it alongside Dr. Bruce Perry, and they give this analogy of a school fire, and how a firefighter will experience that fire one way,
Oh, yeah.
a fifth grader another way, and maybe the kindergartner a different way. And
Yeah.
so I just love that you use that word experience. So made that actually serve us well as we kind of reframe our lenses as to how we look at trauma. I
Yeah.
know I actually used to think trauma was an event. And so people
Yes.
would be around me saying, "Oh, yeah, I've gone through trauma." And I'm like, no, I don't know of any traumatic events in your life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then learning more is like, oh, I don't know your story. I don't know what your childhood was like.
Yeah.
We can experience different events, experience events differently, and those can be trauma for one and not the other. So I
That
love,
is
thank you for
so
that.
great. I'm so glad you said that because you're right. I used to think the same thing, is that trauma was an event. And as I share my story, there were many women who didn't experience an event. Maybe it was a breakup or a bad divorce or something that was like as if they did get hit with a car or
Hmm.
got stabbed, like the
Hmm.
emotion and the intensity that came with it was very similar, but it wasn't a physical attack. And
Hmm.
so you're absolutely right that we have to change the mindset and the framing of what trauma means, because for so long, one of the therapists actually said it in earlier shows. She said that usually the word trauma
Hmm.
resonated or aligned with veterans,
Hmm. Hmm.
thinking about PTSD and PTSA, I think A or D, that's what it
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
And thinking about that, you think about something physically you've gone through. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'm glad that we're moving in a space where people can start to recognize that it's more
Hmm.
than a physical fight or physical thing or an event that
Hmm.
has to happen.
Hmm.
That we experience trauma in various different ways. And so yeah, I thank you for bringing that up, because I think sometimes our framing goes in that
Hmm.
direction.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So you
So
have
yeah, I'll tell you more about my story and
yes.
what I have experienced. So I will just kind of give a warning, kind of trigger warning, really, that my story does include loss,
Yeah.
loss of a person, and I just want to let people know that up front. So I am a proud mom of four. I had my first son back in 2009, and then I had four kids in 6 years. So I had a baby in 2009, my second son in 2012, another baby in 2013, and then the fourth one in 2015. So
Y'all was busy.
so I have four boys. But my story and what really got me or put me on this, what I call my trajectory of
Yeah.
whole health and wellness, started with the loss of my second son. So I call
Mhm.
him my miracle baby. His name is Chase. And I had him actually after suffering two early miscarriages. And so I
Mm.
was able to bring Chase earthside, and we celebrated life with him for 374 days.
Wow.
So it was just after his 1 year
Beautiful.
birthday that we were hit with the unexpected loss of our 1 year old baby. And it was in that season that, well, one, it was just overwhelming. I remember feeling like
Yeah.
I don't want to feel. I don't even think I want to
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
kind of had my own process of like, what will I do? And I remember thinking, like, oh, it makes sense to me now why people would choose drugs and alcohol to numb the pain when you don't want to feel what life can bring.
Yeah.
And me at the time, I was like, well, I'll just choose sugar. We talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I decided like my drug of choice was going to be sugar. I'll just kind of eat myself to death was kind of my resolve.
Yeah.
And then 4 weeks into what I call the school of suffering, 4 weeks after losing Chase, I found out I was pregnant with my third son.
Wow.
And that came with a lot of mixed emotions, but it
Yeah.
definitely stopped me in my eat myself to death tracks.
Yeah.
And through a series of events and conversations, actually with my midwife, she explained to me that, like, hey, your grief is going to affect this baby. So, however you can, let yourself feel and let yourself cry. Don't try to
Yeah.
hold it in. And so she started to help me understand and connect the dots that, oh, okay, I have been created with this integrated design, mind, body, soul,
Yeah.
mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. And for me to actually, I think, survive and thrive and kind of make it through this season of grief, which I'll be honest about, it's not over. I don't think that my season of grief has ended. And
Yeah.
in my faith, I believe that like when God comes back and cracks the sky,
Yeah.
that's when my
Yeah.
grief will be over. So I very much realize that grief is just a part of my new normal. But
Yeah.
she helped me understand if I'm going to make it through this grief, I'm going to have to pay attention to myself. And so I started to just learn a lot more about how we were created and how my
Mm.
mind affects my body and my body affects my emotions, and literally how I feel in my body maybe it might affect how I show up in different
Yeah.
spaces. And so that kind of put me on this trajectory of like, okay, I have to do what I can to care well for myself and pursue healing as I can, really for the sake of the baby growing in my womb. And then eventually became for the sake of myself, for my older son, my husband, my broader family and community.
Yeah.
But initially it really was motivated by the growing child in my womb. And so it's been through this journey of what I call ongoing grief and restoration that I've learned the beauty of our design, but also the power of our experiences. And so in
Yeah.
that season, we were part of a church where the head pastor had dealt with brain cancer. And so everyone in the church seemed to understand, like, okay, he needs to take time off. He's going to have a treatment plan. He's going to go to chemo and do all these things. And so I remember kind of looking at my grief as like a sickness where I started to go, okay, I need to
Mm.
create a care package, a care plan, a treatment plan to care for myself well through this journey. And so I
Wow.
began to incorporate different practices, whether it be paying attention to my thoughts or journaling or resting in stillness. I was already practicing yoga. And so I used yoga to help me listen to my body and notice, internal sensations that would help me realize when I was being triggered or when something was reminding me of that initial traumatic experience, the initial loss.
Yeah.
Um, so I just started to incorporate various practices into my rhythm. And over time, have continued to study, continue to read, continue to educate myself and learn so that I might be able to then pass some of these things on to others and help them to heal and to know comfort and to know peace. And then prayerfully be able to pass that on, like you said in my bio, and become agents of healing in their circles of influence.
Wow, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, I see why your sister was like, "No, she need to talk about this." There's so much to unpack because that is so real, like you saying, um, and grief is like a sickness and that there has to be a care package for it. And so what you did is you tapped and leaned into, I have to create this care package. And what does that look like? And everybody's care package is going to look different. I think
That's right.
about it like I translated into makeup, like everybody's makeup setup is going to be a little bit different. Can I use the same techniques? Absolutely. But there's going to be certain things you may have drier skin or and so forth. So taking that in the translation to what you just said, it's like you may have experienced some type of trauma, some type of loss or grief or grieving, but you still have a care package for
Hmm.
you. It may look a little different, but regardless of it all, the end goal is that we want to recover and be at peace
Hmm.
with what happened so that we can move forward, whatever that may be. And also, like you said, um you haven't stopped grieving. Like,
Mhm,
that's
mhm,
real. Like, people think that, I hear it a lot, especially when it does come to death. Like, I remember talking to shout out to Leanne Person, but we were having a conversation because years ago, she lost her mom. But in
mhm,
that, she talked about how she's still grieving.
mhm,
Even after it's been so many years. And every year, this is what she does, Danielle. She sends us an email to a special group, I say a special group of women, but to a group of women or a group of people, whoever it may be.
mhm,
And she writes a letter to her mom
mhm,
and she
mhm,
sends it to us. And, throughout the day or throughout the week, I take time to read it because it's very lengthy. But
mhm,
it's her expressing the emotion. So thinking about care package, that
mhm.
is her care package.
Yes, yes.
That is her package of grieving the loss of her mother. And so when I think of it in that way, like the way that you're saying it, that makes so much sense. But that's so good that and that's usually what happens, Danielle, is that we go through an experience in our life. And that experience, we had a little bit of it, but this just tipped us over to
Mhm,
focus on it more. Like you said,
mhm,
you were into yoga, but then this really tipped it over. And the other thing that you said is that I remember I was pregnant with my second child, and my mom is schizophrenic and
mhm,
bipolar,
mhm,
and she was living with us because she had an episode, and that episode resulted in her losing her house, things, and
mhm,
stuff like that. So we gave her a place to stay, but it also was stressing me out.
mhm,
And so I remember my pastor at that time telling me, Brandi, she has to go.
mhm,
Because of the effect, like you said, that it would have on me, but also
mhm,
what it would have on the baby.
mhm,
The anger or the emotion that I was feeling, it would really feed into this child that I was getting ready to birth. And that was it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I was like, I don't want her to have this. And so that's so true. There is when you wonder as a kid, like if you have certain mannerisms or certain things that you do,
mhm.
and you're like, where did this stuff come from? Sometimes it's from the time we were in the womb and
That's
we
right,
didn't
that's right.
realize that we've taken that stuff. So tell us, Danielle, kind of, how did you what did your care package look like? Or like when you encounter a woman that has either close to or experiences something that you've gone through, especially women who a lot of times they desire to have children and
Mhm,
then they have, a couple of miscarriages. And sometimes that's grief, that's
mhm.
loss,
Yes, it is.
you know? For a woman. So what are things that you help women, when you're conversing with them, like what
Mhm.
does that look like?
Oftentimes, we will start with those internal narratives and that self-talk. So, a scripture was near and dear to me, it still is. It comes from Deuteronomy 30:19, and God is telling the Israelites, like, I have set before you today life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore, choose life so that you and your descendants may live.
Mhm.
And when I think about that, it helps me to see, like, oh, I have the power to choose in various like frames of reality. I can choose my actions, I can choose my thoughts, I can choose like where I set my mind. And so
Mhm.
oftentimes we will start with that mind because we know so much stuff originates there. It's like, what are you telling yourself? And so I'll ask
Yeah.
women, tell me the thoughts going through your mind. And sometimes we'll unearth and uncover some shame narratives, like,
Mm.
man, something is wrong with me. Like I am bad or I am wrong if
Yeah.
I can't maintain a pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I must have done something bad and I'm being punished. And so we try to pull out and unearth some of those shame narratives and then reframe them. And when we do that, we're doing it with a lot of self compassion. I'm really big on self compassion. We're
Mhm.
not doing it with judgment and critique. We are kind of maintaining a posture of curiosity and just going, okay, what's there? What's in your mind? And then we kind of pull it out. We don't judge it. We just kind of say, okay, do you want to keep that in your mind, or can we reframe that? So then we'll do some work
Yeah.
to maybe create new affirmations, or come up with some scriptures or things that we can kind of begin to shift our mind, because we can
Yeah.
choose what we will believe and what we'll set our mind on. Other things we'll do is we'll do breathing exercises, or we'll do like a restorative yoga practices, and begin to pay attention to internal sensations within our body. Because one of the, what I think is one of the beautiful ways that we have been designed is that the way trauma is actually stored in the body.
Mm.
There's so many books out there that talk about it. One of my favorites is called The Body Keeps the Score. But in short, the way trauma is experienced in the body and in literally the actual brain, it's a whole thing. I don't have time to explain all the science, but
So good. So good. I
but
love it.
trauma is kind of stored from the bottom of the brain up, and the bottom of the brain is where we like our feelings are processed, but not logic, not reasoning, not time. And so your body can go through an experience 20 years ago and then experience something today that is, a similar situation and circumstance, and your
Mhm.
physical body is put right back into that place
Mm.
as it was 20 years ago, because in your body, in that sense, the part of the brain doesn't actually know time has passed.
Wow.
So to me, that's profound. And
Yeah.
so we will sit, and as we're talking about things, I'll kind of ask the questions. Okay, where do you notice this in your body? And they might say, I feel like my shoulders tightening up, or I feel my belly kind of like butterflies in my stomach, because I remember being nervous. I actually, let me talk about from my own experience.
Okay.
So part of my experience involved taking my son Chase to an emergency room when it was just a kind of a hustle and bustle the day of. And years later, walking back into an emergency, I remember going back into an emergency room and needing, or going just no, just into a hospital, just into a medical facility.
Yeah.
And I had my youngest son, my fourth son, with me, and I literally like was shaking going through the doors.
Mm.
And at the time, I didn't know about trauma being stored in the body, but later on, I understood, oh, I was triggered, and I was having like a trauma response. My
Yeah.
body was remembering what it was like to go into a hospital or a medical facility with my son one time that ended in
Yeah.
tragedy. And now I'm
Yeah.
doing it again, and I'm terrified. So I had to learn. So we'll do practices to help us listen to and learn the body, so we can practice feeling safe in our body. Because to
Yeah.
me, so much about trauma, it obviously it happens to you in your body. You live an embodied existence. And so one of the one something that can happen with trauma is that you can stop feeling safe in your own body. And so we will do this
Mm.
work to kind of say, what do you notice? Okay, now let's breathe, or let's stretch that part. Maybe we're going to do a stretch that opens up and loosens up the muscles there. Or maybe we mentally send permission to that area to relax. Or maybe we'll say, hey, just right now in this moment, I want you to breathe deep, and I want you to remind yourself that you are safe. You are safe. And it's almost like you're training yourself how to be and feel safe in your body, and that's powerful. It's
Yeah.
powerful for you to feel comfortable and feel safe in your own skin. And so through different restorative practices and classes that I lead, we are intentionally practicing that. We are intentionally practicing, maybe lying on the floor in stillness, breathing deeply, calm music, eyes
Mm.
closed, maybe some pillows and blankets. We're nice and real comfy, and we're just literally in stillness practicing, yes, I am safe.
That is so powerful because I remember I don't tell too many people about this, but this is uncovering some of that. I remember when I got to a place that I forgave this person. And I remember laying out, we had just moved into our new home, the home that I'm in today. But I was married. We moved into our home. And I remember there was a day where I was at home by myself and I laid out on the floor. But I laid out on the floor to be at peace with the forgiveness, and for me praying. I wanted to get to a place of in-depth prayer
Mhm.
to pray for this person. Now I want to tell everybody this. It took me almost 3 years to get to this
Mhm.
place. That event happened in 2010. I got married in 2013. We moved into our home around the same time. So it probably was 2014 by the time I got there. So
Mhm.
it took me several years. So I don't want anybody to interpret that your forgiveness happens very quickly. For
Yeah.
some people, it does. For most, my experience and the women that I speak to, it doesn't happen that quickly. There is a recovery process that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember laying out on the floor and just being at peace once cried out, because I cried out
Mm-hmm.
so much. Um, it was a deep sense of urgency and cry out for this individual, because in my mind, who can get to that place where you want to take somebody else's life?
Right.
Something is going on with this individual where I'm moving into my new home and I'm marrying my new husband, and you are dealing with every day that sense of emotion or been in you
Mm-hmm.
that you haven't discovered that that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's trauma in itself,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
compared to
Mm-hmm.
what I went through. So will I say that I would go through it again? No. But what I am saying is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it was a sense of peace. I remember laying out on the floor. So it's funny that you said it, because it brought me back to that memory. But the other thing that you bring up, and one of the other therapists brought this up too, about the triggers. I remember it was recent though too, Danielle. I was
Mm-hmm.
freaking out. I remember I was doing some work on my computer. The TV was on. My husband was getting ready to travel for a meeting with his company. And all of a sudden, my body registered I'm in the house by myself. We
Mm-hmm.
have lived in this home. This was this year. We
Mm-hmm.
have lived in this home for almost 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was the movie, because the type of movie that was on, I don't know. I don't know what it was at that time, but I was like, why? And I called my oldest daughter and I was like, can you please just lay in the bed with me? I'm
Mm-hmm.
putting my stuff out there in the streets so you can understand that this stuff is real. But I did get triggered because the day of the event, of this attack, I was at home by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, I was like, my girls are upstairs. And I started thinking about, if somebody came, how would I be able to get to them? How can I
Yeah.
let them know all the thing? And I was like, why
Sure.
is this happening?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, it's been years. Why is this coming to mind? But to your point, it's in the body. Like something triggers it. And it's for us to pay attention and say,
That's it.
why did this trigger?
That's it.
What
Yeah.
is this? And I do sometimes ask myself, even though I get up and speak about my story, and I can speak of it with no, not as much emotion
Sure.
as it
Sure.
was in the beginning, but I do ask myself, like, well, did I really forget, like, what is going on?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's a
Yeah.
real question. Like, I do
Yeah.
ask, especially when stuff like that happens. I'm like, so did I really forgive? Like, have I really moved on? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do
And
want.
yeah, and you can for sure absolutely fully forgive, and your body still remember, you know?
Yes. Yes. And so there was something that you said, darn it, it lost my mind. I lost train of thought. But I think that this is so good. So I know that, man, this is great. Like, I don't want you to get off. I know we're at 6:58, and I
Okay.
want to honor the people and I want to honor your time. But since you do a lot of restorative breathing, basically giving us examples about that, we have a special treat. So Danielle is actually going to take us through some breathing exercises that she does with a lot of the women that she speaks to, men or women,
Right. Yeah.
that she speaks to, and helping them through the process, like she just spoke about. So if you, Danielle, is there anything that somebody, if they're watching right now, is there anything that does somebody need to be sitting? Do we need to be sitting down, standing up, laying down? What do you need us to do so we can go
I
through?
always encourage people just to find whatever position is comfortable for them. I usually do this on my back, lying down on the ground. So if that's available to you and then you want to, for sure, go ahead and transition to your bed or to your couch or to the
Yeah.
floor. Actually, my mat is behind me. This is a place I teach and practice in. So yes, I encourage you to get comfortable. You literally, we're going to do this for about 5 minutes, but if you have a
Okay.
blanket or a pillow, grab it, get comfy. If you're in a
Yeah.
chair, I call it fine tuning your comfort. So
Okay.
whatever you need to do to get comfortable, yes, I'm going to lead you through some just some breathing. And I mentioned, feeling safe in your body, and one of the
That was it,
benefits.
Danielle. That
Oh,
was
go, go,
it.
go.
Oh my gosh. That was it. Feeling safe in your body. So before we go into that, I do want you to talk a little bit about feeling safe in your body. Like that was in my mind. I was like, darn it, there was something that you said that was not common language
Mm,
that people don't hear most of the time. And I do want you to speak just a little bit on being safe in your body. What does that mean? Because I know
mhm.
for most people, we don't hear that. That was the first time this is the first time I've ever heard it. And
Okay.
so what does that mean?
I think it means you feeling a sense of peace and a sense of calm in your own body. And you're going to feel that because of your nervous system. And one of the things about the nervous system is amazing, and it does so much for us. And actually, a lot of different what our culture calls mental disorders actually deal with the nervous system, because the brain is a part of the nervous system.
Mhm.
Brain, spinal cord, nerves, right? That's the nervous system. But your nervous system goes through different states. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn are the stress
Mm.
responses. And then, of course, there's that sense of calm and just a state of just being at rest. And
Mhm.
so, feeling safe in your body is really all about getting your nervous system to a place of rest. But because of trauma, because of past experiences,
Yeah.
because of overstimulation, maybe during the day or from weeks, your nervous system can just be heightened, and
Yeah.
you may not feel safe in your body. And so these restorative practices, and I call them practices because you are intentionally
Definitely.
practicing.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my nervous, like, it's nervous system work. I am intentionally going to treat my nervous system and let my nervous system calm down. Because so the picture I like to use a lot for just things compounded in the nervous system. I have been a homeschooler for a lot of years. And so we were at home all the time, eating all the meals and all the snacks. And so the visual that's really relevant and near and dear to me. If my kids come down and have breakfast and don't clean up the table, then they come down for snack, then they come down for lunch, then they come down for snack, and then
Mhm.
dinner, and never clean up the table. You can just imagine how that compounds over a day.
Yeah.
Now imagine we continue that same cycle over weeks and months and years. To
Mm.
me, this is the picture of our nervous system. Like, we are constantly in states of excitement and stimulation. And if we're
Yeah.
not doing things to bring ourselves down to a place
Mm.
of safety, we're just compounding it. And this is why, see, now I'm going over. This is why
So good. It's so good. It's so good.
This is why chronic stress can be so dangerous in the body. Because when you are at a heightened sense of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn,
Yeah.
there's a whole cocktail of things that's happening within the body when you're in that stress response state. So
Yeah.
if you're going into fight, your body is your heart rate's beginning to accelerate, or like blood is getting sent to your extremities to prepare
Yep.
you to run or to fight, right?
Yep.
Which means blood flow is being taken away from your immune system, and other
Yeah.
systems are being deprioritized in the body. So if you are constantly in this fight or flight state, your immune system is constantly being suppressed and not getting what
Mm.
it needs. And so, again, take that over years and over decades, and that
Mhm.
compounds. And this is a very simple way to say this is why chronic stress can be so dangerous in our bodies. And so, these restorative practices, again, help us to calm our nervous system and
Yeah.
help us to know, because some people actually don't know what it feels like to be safe in their body.
Mm.
We live at a heightened sense, so we're always on alert, but we can be safe in stillness. We can be safe in quiet and in solitude. And we can
Mhm.
train our nervous system to know that safety, and to come back to that calm state through these restorative practices.
That is so good because when I think about being in stillness and being by myself, no sounds, no nothing. Sometimes my body is like, wait, somebody may come in. What about if
Right.
something happens? What about if this happens? What about if you don't hear it? Da, 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 da. And all the things, like you're getting
Hmm.
attacked and bombarded
Hmm.
with all the worry.
Hmm.
Um, in possibilities of worry that you're
Hmm.
not, it's not even going to happen.
That's right.
Your brain has concocted
That's
this
right.
idea already before anything could even happen, before you can even get into the state of like, I am really going to sit here and
That's
I
right.
am going to be still. Instead, your brain or your mind has already gotten you to a place where you're like, well, what about this? What about that? What
Hmm.
about this,
Hmm.
this, and that, and da da da
Hmm.
da da. And I'm like, what?
Yes. And so we practice on the mat, letting those come up, and then training ourselves how to respond to it, not judge it, not be critical. We're doing self-compassion. That's a whole
Yeah,
other thing about the nervous system. But you train yourself how to, in the moment, go, okay, I'm noticing that this thought is coming up. I'm going to just send my awareness back to my breath, or I'm
yeah,
going to send my awareness back to this safe word or this anchor word, peace,
yeah.
calm. And I always tell my clients, we practice this on the mat so that we might be able to access it off the mat. Like that's the reason for the practice.
Mm.
It's not just for like, okay, let me just have a moment of zen and like, okay, I'm good. No, no. We practice coming back to our breath on the mat so that when we're off the mat and we're triggered or we see something on Instagram that's a disturbing image, we know how to capture that thought, come back to our breath, and
Mm.
maintain a sense of calm in our nervous system.
Wow, that's powerful, especially with all the things being uh a Latino American,
Hmm.
African American, with all the things that we're bombarded with,
That's right.
we can heighten stress.
Yes.
And so this allows us to tap in, to lean in. So
Hmm.
just like my pastor tells us all the time, he was like, in order for you to disciple somebody, you have to practice the things, you have to be taught the things.
That's it.
And so in order, so that when the person that needs what you've been studying comes
That's right.
approaches you,
That's right.
you've already practiced enough. Dr. G does this too. So if she's
Hmm.
watching, she always tells us this, like, you have to practice, because when the day
That's right.
comes when you're tapped to be lean in into your expertise or your genius, whatever your thing
Hmm.
is, you've already been practicing enough where you're just like, I'm ready.
That's right.
Put me in the game.
That's
I
right.
am ready. But
That's
if
right.
we're not spending time practicing, we can find ourselves scrolling, have a disturbing image. And instead of us leaning into this calm practice that we've been doing, it's easy for us to lean into now this disruptive,
That's right.
this trauma that starts to affect us in our
That's right.
body. And then the emotions, and then what
Yeah.
happens is we respond out of that emotion,
That's
and
right.
so many other things that come with that. So that makes total sense to me that and I've probably been doing it wrong, but I've been trying. So I do have the Calm app on my phone,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Great.
listen to raindrops as I go to sleep to put me to
Great.
sleep. I love raindrops. And then the other thing is that, like I said, I don't do it right all the time. But before I get ready to go into sleep,
Hmm.
I do take I take several deep breaths.
That's so
Even if I'm
good.
not laying back, even if I'm not in the proper position,
Yeah.
I'm either laying on my side, and I just take deep breaths, because I'm like, I
No.
just need to calm
That's right.
myself
That's
in
great.
preparation for, I need my brain to shut
That's
off.
right. That's a beautiful practice. And I'm gonna tell you what I tell my clients. If it feels right to you, you're doing it right. Because I like to just kind of dismantle the, I don't know if it's the Western standard of like it's got to be this way, but
Yes.
no. So even with postures, I'm like, listen, your child's pose might look like this, mine looks like this. If it feels right in your body, it is right for you.
Exactly. So, Danielle, all of this has been great. I want you to be able to, I want to give you time. We still
Okay.
have viewers on. Thank y'all so much for hanging tough with us. This stuff is so good. Danielle has really, if you get a chance, if you're just logging in, like, watch the replay. She really opens up, and gosh, you have so much to unpack. Like, I'm thinking about women who's dealt with miscarriages or desire to have a baby. Like, I know, and I know I'm just going in, like, who cares? But I remember my pastor, my current my pastor's wife right now,
Hmm.
she brought an awareness. She posted something and she was like, can we stop normalizing asking people, hey, when are you going to have a kid?
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
oh my gosh, it really heightened my senses, because then I got it. I was like, you know what? I don't know what this woman is going through. So
That's
I may
exactly
be
it.
triggering something when I
That's
ask
right.
her that question. And so now I have a sense of awareness of, and I don't get it right all the time, y'all.
And
Work
no
with
one does. Yeah, no
and
one does.
so I do now, but now it makes me aware when women are talking through we're just not ready, or they may be defending their heart because
That's
they're
right.
not ready to share the fact that we've been trying several times,
That's right.
and I done had 3 miscarriages, and I don't know how I'm gonna keep it together.
Yep.
And so if y'all don't take anything away, as a woman, as a male, friends of people who just got married, can we not do that? Because what you don't know is that you may be triggering something for that woman,
Hmm.
because she probably has been trying and her doctor's telling her your baby won't be, you can't carry this baby right
Right.
now, or
Right.
you're not, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you need hormones, you need
Hmm.
just. And so when you ask that question, it triggers that, even for the person who they're probably like not interested in having a baby right
That's
now.
right.
They're
Yeah.
not even going through none of that stuff. But for the person that is, so get into a habit of not asking,
Hmm.
because you may come across the person who is dealing with that.
That's
And so
right.
you don't want to get into the habit of asking that question. So
That's right. And this journey of self-knowing and self-awareness really does help you to practice with other people. So, because you start to learn, oh, I'm triggered by these types of questions. And so just like you said, so I'm going to be more mindful with my words. I'm going to be more
yes,
intentional with the questions I ask, because
yes,
I recognize I don't know everybody's stories. I don't know their childhood
yes,
story. So
yes,
I'm just going to, and yeah, like you said, like I'm going to not do it perfectly, but I'm going to give effort to
yes.
being really wise with my word choice or with the
Yeah.
questions I ask, or, whatever.
Yeah. No. So that's great. So I'm glad that I applaud you and admonish you to keep sharing your story, Danielle, because
Mm.
I'll say this before Danielle goes into her practice. For Danielle's story, a lot of us during this season, especially the holidays, people are throwing out all the happiness of a lot of things that are going on. And there's so many things that we can
Mhm.
definitely be grateful for. But do understand there are people in the world who either have lost a loved one, lost a child, lost something. And for them, the holidays actually heightens
That's
the
right.
loss, or the feeling or the emotion that comes with it. So try to be sensitive to that if you
Yeah.
can, as much as possible for individuals, because these things, holidays is a trigger for them.
Yes. Yeah.
And so and that's a work in progress. We have been taught and trained to do otherwise. Oh, everything is so happy, but everybody is
Hmm.
not having a happy moment, because
Hmm.
holidays, Thanksgiving, gatherings of having family around triggers triggers that, and that's a trigger for them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes the people during these times, they just need a hug, or they just need to know that you're there, and that if they need to talk through it and they're feeling some type of way, allow them to do that and express themselves, because that's a gift in itself, to be
Yes.
able to have those safe places to be
Yeah.
able to be vulnerable and to talk through those things. So I just wanted to say that,
Yeah.
because I know that
That's good.
that can definitely be a trigger for people. And so I'm glad that you were my last episode, because I feel like it was just perfect. I when Dr. G brought it up, um, it just solidified, like, this is going to be perfect. Because there may be some people out there who maybe have experienced or are experiencing the same thing
Sure.
we've gone through, and they need
Sure.
to be reassured um, that there's hope. Somebody else has
That's
gone
right.
through it too, and they're wanting to
Yeah.
help other women.
There is hope. And to those of you who are experiencing loss this season, or who are mourning someone, or who has a very who this season triggers that, my encouragement is to be gentle with yourself,
Yeah.
and to not believe sometimes the lies of the culture that says the holidays have to look a certain way. You
Yeah.
can set boundaries, and
Yes.
you can incorporate different things into your holiday celebration that helps you to celebrate that loved one that you might be missing right now. And even if it looks
Yeah.
weird to everyone else, so what? Like
Yeah.
you can do like I full like transparency. I still like I use cloth diapers. I still have a bag of Chase's cloth diapers in a closet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there are
Yeah.
times where I'm like, I'm just gonna pull out the cloth diapers.
Yeah.
Or there are you might have just a tradition that you want to do. And so we have woven, and my friends and my family, they support us really well in this. We have just woven different practices into our life rhythms. And so like my boys know they have another brother that's not here. And so we have Chase's stocking on the fireplace, and
Yeah.
we're gonna like light a candle, and we're going to grieve and we're gonna celebrate in this season. But
Yeah.
I recognize that those I can occupy both those spaces at the same time. So
Yeah.
where you need to set boundaries, I encourage you set the boundary. You know, politely decline the party invitation. Whatever, it really is a time of being gentle, self-compassion,
Yeah.
because you are. I mean, you're healing. Like I said before, I am on an ongoing path of grief and restoration. I am not fully healed. I am not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I miss Chase every day, and so I want to just say that and share how I have just grief is a part of my new normal. And so there are practices that we do as a family, even in our family pictures. We hold up a framed picture of Chase
Yeah.
every year in our family pictures because we know like we are a family of six. You might
Yeah.
see us as five, but we're
Yeah.
six.
Yeah. And so, you know what, Danielle, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Oh my gosh. Yes, we're going over. Oh well. But this is my show. I could do what I want with it. But you bring up a very valid point, is that listen, this is what me and my family are going to do. It may look odd and weird
Hmm.
to you, but
Hmm.
this gives us peace
That's right.
and calm in our home, to and we're still grieving, and this is our way of grief. This is my care package.
That's
So
right. Yes.
shut up.
It is part of my yes, yes, yes,
You
yes.
know what I mean? Like, it is okay to say, to Danielle's point, I'm declining the Christmas party. No, we cannot come, because guess what? That decline is because you're probably the one person that is bringing up this subject, and I
Hmm.
don't want to talk about it right now. But
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
continue to not get the triggers or the cues. So I have to do this for myself to say, no, I'm not attending your party. No offense to you. It's
Yeah.
for me.
It's for me. Yeah.
It is for me. It
It's for
has
me. It's for my
nothing.
peace. Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
all of that. And so, thank you for sharing that, because, to someone else, they might think like, well, that's odd. Why would you do that? Because I still grieve, and
That's
that
right.
is okay. I can
And
sit here and
people,
tell my story,
yeah.
but I still, for the longest time, my husband wouldn't let me pick up a knife,
Mm.
because he knew what happened to me.
Hmm.
He felt
Hmm.
like that would be a trigger. He would say, "No, I got it. I'll grab it. What do you need?" What, and then all this, and I was like, "Why are you doing?" But I think
Yeah.
for him, he was just like, "I feel like I need to protect you." And at some point, it was. I know. I was like, but at some
That's
point,
so,
there
no, it's
was
perfect.
moments
Yeah.
that I had to not have a knife set in front of me, because during my attack, it was the butcher knife out of my block in my
Hmm.
house was
Hmm.
pulled out to continue the attack. So for a very long time, I did not want to see a set of knives. My
Sure.
friends they wouldn't even bring up knife in a conversation, because it would trigger something of me. But like you said, I set the boundaries because I
Hmm.
don't I'm not mentally there yet to be
Hmm.
able to have this conversation, to tell you why, when you mention that, it triggers something, or I respond
That's
in
right.
such a way. I just can't right now, and I need to get to a place of where I'm safe, so
Hmm.
that when I do get around you and you decide to bring it up, even though I told you 1,000 times not to bring it up, but you
Right.
continue doing it,
That's right.
I'm in a comfortable space to be like, "Okay, well,
Yes.
you're gonna continue to ask, and I'm gonna continue to walk away," or whatever it is for yourself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You hit on so many things right now. The first thing is like learning how to respond to like learning knowing that you don't have to respond to everything. It's like I might share my story like yeah I've lost a child, blah blah blah. And people will come up to me and be like, oh no, what happened? And I've learned to say, if I'm sharing my story, I've learned to go, and don't come up and ask me how. I'm not
Yeah,
like that's I've
Yeah.
learned to say that now.
Yeah.
So if you have to learn, you have to figure out ways to respond that serve you well. But the other thing you said that I love that you mentioned your husband protecting you or keeping the knives away from you. You use the word protection because there's this phrase I use, bubble of protection. I got it from a book called Burnout. But we don't do this alone. Like we need our bubble of protection
Yes.
around us to help us heal. Like that's a part of my care package, is like having your people, having your bubble of protection. And so I have many people around me that will text me like, hey, this new Netflix movie came out. Don't watch it, because they know
Wow.
something in it will
Yeah.
trigger me. Or
Yeah.
they'll be like, do not listen to that podcast. Or, hey, there's this event happening. Do you want me to go with you to it? Because I know she just had a baby, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so it's so helpful to have those people around you. So you've mentioned vulnerability multiple times. And so it does take us practicing vulnerability and being safe with people
Yeah.
around us. Not everyone deserves your whole story, right? So you're going to
No,
be using
okay.
discernment of who's in that bubble, but they can help
Ooh,
you and
child.
they can help protect you and know your triggers and help keep you safe.
Yeah, no, all of that was good. Oh my gosh, you were so good because you're so right. They do, and as a part of my story, one of my tips is really telling people is that find your support group. That I had a support group
Same.
prior to this event, but how do you identify your support group and be please be gentle with these individuals because they've never experienced what you've gone through. And all they're trying to do is to
That's
let
right.
you know they're there for you. So,
That's right.
where I thought the person who was going to text me or show up was going to show up, they didn't. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, at first, I was angry. I was like,
Same.
what's up with that? Like, what do you mean? Like, you just
Yep.
not going to show up? But
Mm-hmm.
we've been friends.
Mm-hmm.
But what I had to realize is that I had to give them some grace. At least
Yes.
they were there. At least they found a way to overcome and say, I don't want to show up, but I just know I need to show up. And this is how
Yeah.
I'm showing up. So, where I thought the phone caller was going to phone call me, that person became the text messenger. And
Right.
I had to be okay with that because they have never experienced, not even close, remotely close, that I've
Yeah.
experienced. So give those people grace, y'all,
Yeah.
because
And that in
they
and of
going
itself is
through it with
hard.
you. Yeah, they
That's
going
hard. I remember
through it
being
with you.
like, why do I have to give you grace? I'm grieving. But let me breathe. I was like, okay, human. We're both human, different capacities.
Talking about, okay, I get it. But we sometimes have to lean into this. And so they're just, just be easy with them as much as possible because they're trying to
Yeah,
support you and protect you all at the same time, and they just
that's
don't
right.
know how. And so that's a part of it. But okay, let's get to your breathing. Let's
Okay.
do the breathing exercise. We went over, but I think this conversation is great, and I pray that the individual who needs to see it gets to see it because I think everything that we talked about in here is very important. I am so glad that you are my last one for the year, and then
Thank
I'll
you for the invitation.
yeah, no, because this is great. I know that this is going to be a blessing to someone, and for those of you who are watching, you're watching the replay, share it with someone, especially if you know that they're experiencing loss. If it's not a loss of a child, maybe it's a loss of a parent, a friend, a husband,
Hmm.
whatever. Share it with them because it's all relevant, and experiencing the trauma in your body is all relevant regardless if you lost a relationship. That's a part of loss. That's a part of grief. You're grieving the relationship. Your sister brought that up. She was my first person I did the episode with, and she brought that up, the grief of a relationship.
Hmm.
We see grief as I got to lose somebody or they die, but no, the grief is that I lost somebody that now I'm no longer attached to anymore, or
Hmm.
I don't have energy or time with this individual. So, so many things. So I
Yeah.
admonish you to, for those of you watching, y'all share it with someone because it's all relevant. Danielle, you have the floor. You are going to
Okay.
take us through a 5-minute breathing exercise to help us find calm. So you have the floor. Go for it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, we're gonna is we're going to treat our nervous system. So, again, if you wanted to lie on the ground or adjust how you're sitting, go ahead and do that. I'm going to just roll my shoulders down and back and sit up a little bit taller in the spine. If you would like, you can close your eyes or you can lower your gaze if that feels safe, whatever is best for you. And I first just want you to sit and just be and take a moment to notice how your body feels in the space. Maybe you notice the earth underneath you. Maybe you notice the air and fabrics on your skin. Maybe you notice the temperature or texture of the air within the nostrils. On your next inhale, take a deep inhale through the nostrils and open mouth, sigh it out like you're fogging up a mirror. Let the breath be audible. And do that again. And one more time. Now I invite you to seal your lips. And first, just continue breathing deeply in and out your nostrils. You can still think about letting that sound happen even though the lips are sealed. So feel the air passing across the throat. And now we're going to move into deepening the breath and taking deep diaphragmatic belly breaths. So now as you breathe, if you're lying down, you'll really be able to maybe see this or feel this. I want you to think about letting the air fill up the belly. So allow the belly to expand forward. And if you feel your shoulders moving up and down with the breath, let them be still and let the movement happen in the belly, in the torso, in the rib cage as it expands forward and back and side to side. Deep diaphragmatic breathing. It's so good for the nervous system. It sends fresh oxygen throughout the body, can clear the mind, and bring a sense of calm. So let's treat our nervous system even more. When your exhale is longer than your inhale, you activate your body's relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm going to guide you through some breaths. We're going to inhale for 4 and exhale for 7. I'm going to lead you through 3 and then leave you on your own to do a few more. Let's begin. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I invite you to continue breathing deeply and allow your exhale to be longer than your inhale, but just do this by feeling. No need to count. Just feel that your exhale is longer than the inhale. And then after your next exhale, allow your breath to simply be. No need to control it. Now just take your awareness within, noticing sensations within the body. Maybe you notice a tingling sensation, a heaviness, or a heat. Maybe you notice thoughts floating through the mind. Simply notice. Take a moment to be aware of what's there. And then slowly begin to bring movement back to the body by wiggling fingers, wiggling toes. Maybe you gently nod your head no, or nod your head yes, or shake your head no slowly. Maybe you roll your shoulders. Maybe you reach overhead. Do what feels right. Take one more deep breath in through the nostrils. Open mouth, sigh it out. We call that a cleansing breath. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes or lift your gaze, return back to your space, and just notice how you feel.
So relaxed. So good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That
Thank
was 5 minutes. So imagine doing that for 20 or
I
60.
can't even imagine. I probably would go into a deep sleep. I would just fall over and be like, I'm done. Danielle, thank you so much. If anybody wanted to contact you, how would they be able to get a hold of you?
Yes, I am on Instagram. I am Danielle.l.Anderson. And on Facebook, I am Danielle Guillory Anderson, and my maiden name is Guillory. And for those who are watching live or watched this before, actually, you can watch it anytime. I'm actually hosting a free virtual wellness workshop tomorrow. It's called Be Still. So we're going to practice
No.
intentional stillness for up to 20 to 30 minutes, and that deep breathing and some mental massages.
Yeah,
So you can register. The link to register is tinyurl.com, and it's /December wellness. So
awesome.
tinyurl.com /December wellness. If you would like to join me, you can go register. It's at 1:30 Eastern on Saturday the 11th. If you can't even make it live, register anyway, and I will send you the recording.
Yeah,
And it's going to be a beautiful time of actually talking more about practices you can weave into your rhythms to intentionally practice being still.
awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you to the audience that stayed on. Thank y'all so much. Again, thank my special guest. Here's my hands. Yes, it's like the opposite. It's so weird.
I know.
But thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you all for staying on and being with us. And for those who are just joining, I'm about to log out. Make sure that you watch the replay. It will be worth the watch. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next year. Thank you.